it's us.
In Italy, when it was like 100 some odd degrees.
Finally, say half as much, then you won't get a repetition.
No,
You aren't repeating. We are.
So
Okay.
no.
So no,
We sure
we sure
enjoyed
enjoyed
the other
the other
night.
night.
Thanks for tuning in. Thank you.
If that
If
was
that was
enjoyed.
enjoyed,
Our
our
Yeah.
granddaughter was you were there.
No,
We're saying
we say
Week apart.
yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to lower you down.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If it was a medical one, it wouldn't be Mr. Doctor. Gotta go home and get it. Don't go away.
Right, yeah. I love it. That's so great. Thank you. In fact, mine got stolen while it was in Italy for a little while, so I just had to do the hard one. I was lost. I know. Thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure.
Oh, why?
No picture.
Moran Nebuchim, Guide to the Perplexed. I read that and I'm still perplexed.
Whenever I see her, she reminds me of my shoes. Yes, and you wore yours last time. Yeah, so I've got a purple dress, but I throw guns in it.
It got stolen. Because when that goes around the neck.
I don't want to get
But
if you trust it, you know, then I don't want to come for it's temple.
Any
I can't.
eventuality.
You always look just fine. You should think so.
Right?
Thank goodness. Thank you.
I thought that was a Boy Scout model.
And she can show me now.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We'll pass it along.
Hi, Faye.
Sam probably knows.
You want to sit up some of that face?
Go to your house.
Sit right here.
Oh, of course you will.
I like your lipstick. It looks good.
Only drink juice.
Yeah, no. The president of their delivery. She was sick today. Oh, yes. She goes, I don't know if I'm going to be able to sleep. It starts at 10 and she wants to go. She goes, I'll watch it after.
With the plastic pieces in there that could
Yeah,
easily
my voice
fall
was
apart,
in
but they
it.
don't.
They watched the whole program last night.
Almost matches my shirt.
Oh, really? That's what you want. And I'm always, it's black.
Almost done.
Not too much more fun in Canoga Hills. Yeah, right.
I heard
I
it.
think you're 1 degree.
Yes, ma'am.
Countdown?
2 minutes to lunch.
1 degree.
To Starlink lunch.
So you like to visit?
It was an evening of the art of
Good, how are
president.
you?
You have a nice celebration? A little bit too much, actually. I mean, I think the program.
12 hours in the airport trying to get here.
Too much, too minutes. Of course, they want everybody to do it nice, and you were trying to
I got in at 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the morning, 4:15 in the morning. Yeah, it was a whole saga, but I knew that's what counts.
But in 2.5 hours.
No, just plain, it's bad.
No matter what it is.
So mechanical issues, air conditioning issues, so we were on and off of one way, a couple times, went out to the runway, sat for half an hour, trying to get the air conditioning. Had another half hour, we ended up like deplane, deplane, they were gonna try to repair that plane again. Hour later, no, they were gonna bring it to the plane.
Should say, you know,
The
read.
plane came in for useless. That's all of a sudden needed servicing, and they weren't sure whether that was gonna be viable, so we finally left two salads. We got on the plane at 12, expecting 12:30. Midnight, I expected to leave at 12:30, 2 o'clock, I think we finally took off.
30 seconds, get your tummy tuck ready.
But I'm here. I was not going to read it. I was
Better
not
late
going to
than
visit.
never.
Memorable.
I know I've had memorable.
Really? It's sort of thing that you hear in the news.
Shabbat shalom, good morning, welcome. If you have not yet put on your talit, you will be doing so. Please rise. We say the bracha together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. And you may be seated, and our service begins on page 14, bottom of the page. Hashamayim, Yisrael Hashamayim, Yeramayam, 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 Oshia, Amecha. Hooray, 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 benas, hooray, benas, my Apollo. Shia, Amecha, hooray, 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 benas, hooray, benas, my Apollo. Mizmor, Shir, Shir Yom HaShabbat. 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 משפטך בכל דרכו. אהבתך מהות העולמים ומשפטך בכל דרכו. אהבתך מהות העולמים ומשפטך בכל דרכו. And we continue on page 16. Hello, Charlene. How nice to see you. Page 16. El Adon Kol HaMa'asim Baruch U'Borah V'Ringon Neshama We are on page 16. Gather our tzitzit together. We're wearing a talit. V'haminu l'shalom yirbakan fota aras v'tolicheinu kumum l'yotzeinu ke'elpot el yeshuot ata uvanu v'chartit n'lam l'shon v'kerevtanu l'shem chagadosh sela be'emet l'hodot l'cha u'yachetcha b'yahava baruch ata Adonai abocher v'yamo Yisrael b'ahava Shema Yisrael Adonai V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'elu hadvarim Anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinam levanecha B'shiktecha b'eitecha u'b'lechtecha u'b'shaktecha u'b'kumecha u'kishartam le'ozam yadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'nei yinecha u'b'tamtam Page 18. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak of the children of Israel and bid them to make tzitzit in the corners of their garments throughout their generations, putting upon the tzitzit of each corner a thread of blue. When you look upon the tzitzit, you will be reminded of all the commandments of the Lord and obey them. You will not be led astray by the inclination of your heart or by the attraction of your eyes. Thus will you be reminded to fulfill all my commandments and be consecrated to your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I, the Lord, am your God." And I hope you paid attention to that paragraph that we just read, because this is part of the Torah portion for this Shabbat, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it in a few minutes. We continue on page 18. Azot, azot, shivachu ahurim, shivachu ahurim. Ve'rommemu, 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 ve'rommemu. Venatenu, venatenu yedidim. Venatenu, venatenu yedidim. Zmirot, shirot, ve'tishbachot, ve'rachot, ve'hodaot, lemelech el-chai v'kayam, ram v'nisa, gadol v'nora, mashbil geim, umagli alim, motzi asirim, fode anavim, zedarim. V'yon eliam oviyeh shabam elav tehilo le'el elyon baruch u'varach Moshe v'nei Yisrael lachanu shira v'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam mi kamocha bo'elim Adonai mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh norati Oh, Sefer. Shira Chadasha Shibachu Ulim L'Shimcha Svat Hayam Yachad Kulam Hoduvim Lichu V'Yamaru Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed. So before we have our private prayers of thankfulness, take the shortcut. We're going to have an opportunity to share publicly what, as a community, we have to be thankful for. We are going to now observe some of the summertime anniversaries and birthdays, because this is our last service for a couple of months, but we don't want to neglect them. And so we are celebrating the following birthdays who will be experiencing them in July. So these are the July birthdays. Gail Cohen, Heather Hyman, Fran Feynman, Barbara Haddam, happy birthday, Barbara. Phyllis Schroeder, happy birthday. Charlene Kazel, celebrating a birthday in July. Happy birthday, Charlene. You're celebrating a birthday, and we're going to sing happy birthday to you in a minute.
That'll be in July.
Yeah, so these are all July birthdays we're anticipating. And Judy Isiko is celebrating a birthday in July. Anybody else here celebrating a July birthday that we neglected?
When else did they say?
So let's wish them all a happy birthday. Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach, Yom Haledet Sameach. Of course, this last week, Helga had an opportunity to celebrate her 93rd birthday. So I think that when you get to 93, you have a right to actually hear your name in the birthday song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Helga. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you, everybody.
And And this is also going to be our opportunity to celebrate anniversaries of the congregation that will be happening in July. And so I'll ask. So we're gonna recognize these people. Susan and David Lipman are celebrating their 54th wedding anniversary. Stephen Sima Schuster are celebrating their 57th. And Lorraine and Dan Szymanski celebrating 59 years of marriage. Happy anniversary. Anybody else celebrating an anniversary in July that we neglected? So Lorraine and Dan, if I could ask you to rise, we're going to have a special blessing for you. Elohim v'lehavotenu v'yimatenu, our God and God of our ancestors, we are grateful for the love with which you have blessed and sustained Dan and Lorraine, whose hearts are filled with gratitude to you. May they continue to enjoy your blessings in the new song of their years to come, embraced by the love of their family and their friends, so that they may always live in joy and gladness, in love and harmony, in peace and companionship. And let us all say Amen and Mazel Tov! Mazel Tov! And now we have an opportunity to open it up for anybody else who would like to share what you are thankful for on this lovely day. Claire.
Phyllis has often said she's grateful to modern science for personally for all that they have accomplished, and we are, Lou and I are as well. We're particularly thankful to his doctors. 3 of his doctors he was in the hospital for 3 days getting ready for dialysis, and he has already had 3 sessions of dialysis, and he's done really, really well. The 3 doctors were there consulting. They don't even work together, but they were consulting for him, and we're very appreciative. And he's doing well.
Good.
And he'd be here, except it's complicated to getting dressed today.
Okay, well, next month we're coming to your house. Tell him he can come in his pajamas. Who else would like to share what we're thankful for? Nancy.
Continuing on Claire's for modern Mommy just had the 3rd surgery on the same evaluation. Because when he broke it, they put in, we've always said he had a screw loose. They had a loose screw in the joint that had to be removed. They had another screw that was irritating the skin from the inside. He's got a red welt that would never go away. Now we know why. And they had 2 different kinds of metal that don't interact well with each other. So that's why he's got the cane and he's hobbling around, but doing fine. We had a great trip. We're now officially empty nesters. Joshua is a resident of Duluth, Georgia. All his stuff is gone. We have a half-empty house because we're trying to get it together to put our house up for sale and move to something smaller. Anybody interested in a 2,500 square foot house with a nice pool? Let me know.
Thank you, Nancy. Who else would like to share what you are thankful for? Did I see your hand?
Yes.
Debbie.
So we are very thankful in between May and June and now we're into July. In May, my oldest son Zachary graduated with his MPA, so we're very proud of him. And then in June, my youngest son graduated from UC Davis with his degree in sociology. And Jacob came down with his wife and my grandkids, and we were all together as a family. We caravaned all the way up to Davis. We got to spend a wonderful time together. And then we're getting ready to celebrate Mom's 85th birthday in July. So we're very thankful we have this opportunity to celebrate some of them.
About David, are we going to go somewhere with him?
Well, maybe he'll come down for your birthday in July. My brothers, we're trying to get them down.
Yeah, I've got a lot of boys.
Thank you, Debbie.
And they're fun.
Who else would like to share?
Yes,
Okay.
I'd like to share my daughter with you all. She's came from New Jersey for my birthday.
Yep.
Yay.
Wow. And it was in the airport for 12 hours trying to get here. So
So we better make it worth your
we
while.
better be. It's always worthwhile. No problem.
That's what we say. Okay.
Thank you, Claire.
Regarding Charlene, thank you for bringing some, telling us about what's going on. Because Charlene, even though I didn't know you guys, and I didn't know your children and grandchildren and so forth, but Charlene, every week that she would come, would let us know what all of you were doing, all the wonderful things that you were doing.
That's true. That's true. I was thinking the same thing. Who else would like to share with you what we're thankful for? Barbara.
A couple things. We have a wonderful simcha coming up in 3 weeks from today. Eli will be bar mitzvah. And I'm so happy to see Debbie because today is Marla's birthday. And that was my babysitter.
Thank you. Who else would like to share what you are thankful for?
What?
Well, Stan?
How about
Oh, yes, let's check online. Thank you for reminding me. Anybody online would like to share what you are thankful for? Janet? You're muted, Janet. There you go.
I'm just
thankful
thankful
that
Richard's
went
went
fine
and
and
blood
Westerners
and
all is good.
Nice. I'm glad. Thank you. Anybody else online like to share what you're thankful for? Well, Stan, I hope that you're going to share something that you're thankful for.
As always, I'm thankful for being here this time and this place in my life, and the fact that the people that came before me made this world what it is, and I bless them. And the people who are here now, and in particular my wife Phyllis, who is the main blessing of my life, along with all the others. Many of you know that writing personal poetry and Judaic poetry is one of my hobbies. Because her Phyllis's birthday is coming up the end of July, so I haven't written a poem for her this year yet. But I did write a poem for her 10 years ago, just before she turned 75. And she was born in 1939. Some of us can go back and relate to what was happening those days. Let me read this poem, and then I may even take more time and go on from there. So Phyllis is 75. Phyllis, my dear, we knew the day would arrive when you would reach 75. 3/4 of a century on Earth, amazing changes since your birth. 1939, the end of a tumultuous decade. The Great Depression, history was made. Since your life started that year, I'll list a few events of interest here. Students at Harvard, a university of renown, who graduated a crimson doctoral gown, demonstrated a new higher learning phase. Swallowing live goldfish became the craze. Women had long dressed in silk hose, but that era would soon come to a close. Pardon me. For women with legs unsightly pale, nylon stockings went on sale. Rama's Chinese Theater was the site of his classic film's opening night. Judy Garland sang Over the Rainbow in Wizard of Oz and stole the show. And people flocked from everywhere to the 1939 New York World's Fair. FDR's speech was on opening night, RCA televised in a 5-inch black and white. Albert Einstein wrote FDR a letter proposing that the United States had better develop an atomic bomb to be first. The Manhattan Project prevented the worst. Well, that was the country way back then, when people wrote with ink on their pen. Now we write with computer mouse and talk on cell phones when we leave the house. So Phyllis, you indeed are blessed. Technology that no one would guess. But more important, you have love in your life, and I have you as a wonderful wife. So this is 10 years ago. Actually, before I looked at my files and saw that I had this poem, I wanted to talk about 1939 anyway. So I had prepared some other things that happened with a Jewish theme of 1939. So let's go back. May 13th, SS St. Louis departs Hamburg, Germany, with 900 Jewish refugees bound for Havana, Cuba. Authorities refused to admit them, and most of the passengers returned to Europe. Remember those days, I think. Helga's family, of course, made it out earlier and were blessed. Okay, June 22nd. The future Queen of England, Elizabeth, meets future husband Prince Philip of Greece. Queen Elizabeth never visited Israel. Of the 120 countries that she went to, never, or her family until recent years, no one went to Israel. But she did award an honorary knighthood to Shimon Peres in 2008. So, August 2nd, Albert Einstein sends a letter to FDR that I mentioned before. That recent research, fission change reaction makes possible extremely powerful bombs. The original of that letter, by the way, is going to go on sale at an auction very soon. And it's going to go for millions of dollars. The letter was revised, and the letter that's going on sale, he typed and signed. But anyway, the letter that went out is a slightly revised version. Okay, that was August 2nd. August 6th, Dinah, born Frances Fanny Rose Shore. How many remember Dinah? She was born to immigrant Russian Jewish parents, and the first Dinah show was on NBC Radio August 6th of that year. So she went on to a very, very successful life. Her parents, of course, were Russian immigrant Jews, but she didn't really lead a Jewish life particularly, but she somewhat died a Jewish death. By somewhat, I mean she was cremated the same day that she was born, but some of her ashes were interred in a vault at Hillside, which is only Jewish burials. So you gotta never know. And last, I also mentioned that August 15th, The Wizard of Oz previewed at Rauma's Chinese Theater. The Cowardly Lion, Bert Lahr, was born, Irving Lahr Heim, was born of German Jewish immigrants. And of course, the song that Judy Garland sang was written by Yip Harburg. All the songs, many of the songs in those days are Jewish people that wrote these songs and made America what it is today. So I thank them, and I thank all of you.
Thank you, and thank you, Stan. Please rise. We turn the page. We're at the bottom of page 18 in preparation for our own private prayers of thanks. Page 18, please rise. Sur Yisrael, Kuma Yisrael, Ufedei Chinumeha, Yehuda Yisrael. Ro Aleinu Adonai Tzvot Shemo, Yisrael Yisrael, Baruch Atah Yisrael. We continue quietly. We move away from the prayers in our prayer book to the meditations of our hearts.
It's freezing in here.
Shalom Tova Uvracha Chesed Aleinu v'yakol, Aleinu v'yakol, Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael. Sim shalom tova u'bracha, ein v'chesed v'rachamim. Sim shalom tova u'bracha, ein v'chesed v'rachamim. Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael echad. Aleinu v'yakol Yisrael echad. Sim shalom tova u'bracha, ein v'chesed v'rachamim. Oseh shalom, 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 b'mromavuya. Oseh shalom, aleinu. Oseh shalom, 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 b'mromavuya. Oseh shalom, aleinu. V'yakol Yisrael v'imru. Please be seated. Yitkara v'yitkara shmei Rabbah. V'yamad yibrach Yerutei v'yamich machutei b'chayeichon v'yameichon u'b'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael ba'adala u'b'zman karim v'yimaru. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach Le'olam le'omei omaya yitzhara. Yisbarach v'yishtabach v'poar v'truma min l'sei v'yitadar v'yidalev l'al shemei d'kudesha v'yinechu le'ila min kol b'chata v'shorata tush b'chata v'nechmata d'amiram b'yamav v'yimaru. Amen. Titgabel s'lodhanu b'nahon d'chol Yisrael kadam v'avoni b'shmai v'yimaru. Amen. Yislam hara b'min shamayim v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru. Amen. Hoseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru. Amen. We've come to the Torah service on the middle of page 19. Let's give out some honors. Who would like to carry the Torah through the congregation after leading us in some prayers? Jordan, want to give it a shot? Okay. Thank you. Who would like to pick up the Torah, the Hadbah? Okay, Armand. Who would like to be the Galila? Davina. We continue now on page 19. Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai v'ein k'maasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'kol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai melech, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitei, Adonai yivarech v'lo v'shalom. Avarachamim eitiv avertzoncha et Zion. Tibnei chomot Yerushalayim, Tibnei chomot Yerushalayim. Kirecha levatotanu, melech v'nisa, Adon olamim. Vayehi b'tzomran, vayomer Moshe, Uma Adonai, ve'afusu oivecha, ve'anusu misarnecha, mipanecha, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael, Kedushato, Be'yan Arachis, Ve'lishmi Kadisha, Kadisha Yakira, Ana Amar Tushmechan, Venishme Kadisha Yakira, Namar Tushmechan, Rabakadama, Tetitan Levi Dioraita, Nitashli Nishalim, Terili, Baruch Yisrael, Letavu Lechaim, Velishlam. Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Elul Adonai Iti, V'romama Shemo Yachdav.
Adonai Hagidulam v'Hagivulam v'Hatiferet v'Hanetzach v'Hod Kol v'Shamayim u'Baaretz Kol v'Shamayim u'Baaretz Lecha Adonai Amar Ki mitzion teisei Torah, Ki mitzion teisei Torah, Ki mitzion, Ki mitzion, Ki mitzion teisei Torah, Ki mitzion teisei Torah, Ki mitzion, Ki mitzion, Zion teisei Torah. Udvar Adonai Yerushalayim, Udvar Adonai Yerushalayim, Udvar Adonai Yerushalayim, Udvar Torah portion is Shalach Lecha, and we're going to have our communal aliyah. Remember to repeat the second line twice. Everybody point right here. Yes. Baruch Adonai Hamborah, Baruch Adonai Hamborah Le'olam Vaed, Baruch Adonai Hamborah Le'olam Vaed, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu leTorato, Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, Shlach lecha anashim, Vayaturu et eretz Canaan, Asher ani noten livnei Yisrael, איש אחד, איש אחד, למטה אבותיו תשלחו, כל נשיא בהם, וישלח אותם משה ממדבר פרן על פי אדוני, כולם אנשים ראשי בני ישראל המה.
Kiss again. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Yeshua, please be seated. So why did the Israelites have to wander in the wilderness for 40 years? Because of something that happens at the very beginning of our Torah portion, the Shabbat. And in fact, there are three remarkable things that we continue to this day to observe in one way or another from this Torah portion. So the very first part of it talks about these, we've been calling them spies. Remember the 12 spies, we talk about them, and they went into what was going to become Israel, and they were sent ahead of the Israelite community to figure out who's moved in while they were slaves for hundreds of years, and how were they situated, and are they armed, and can we defeat them in battle? And but never in the entire story are they ever referred to as spies. They're referred to as scouts. The entire story, never are they spies. They're scouts. They're not supposed to spy, but a scout does and what a spy does are very, very different. But they're supposed to scout out the land. They come back. 10 give false reports, 2 give proper reports. The 2 who gave the good reports were Caleb ben Yefuneh and Yehoshua ben Nun, Caleb and Joshua. But the other 10 scouts gave false reports. They said it's a land flowing with milk and honey, but the people there are huge. We're like grasshoppers compared to them. There's no way that we're going to be able to defeat them militarily. And God looks down upon the situation and decides, these people who were, can't blame them. They were slaves all their lives. They always were doing what everybody told them to do. And they were treated like insects and like grasshoppers. So, of course, they're going to feel that everybody else is going to be able to defeat them. And so I can't have these people born and raised in slavery become the ones who will inherit the promised land. They're going to go running with the tail behind their back to Egypt as soon as they step foot into the promised land. It's got to be their kids who were born and raised in freedom. They're going to have the gumption that would be necessary to go and to retake and to take back the promised land. And so God says you're going to have a few generations die out in the wilderness before that new generation is ready to take over and do what has to be done. And so as a result, they have to wander for 40 years. But based upon this story, there are many people who say, many scholars who say, we get the idea of the minion from this story, those 10 spies. Even though those 10 spies, so-called spies, gave that false report, everybody suffered. The entire Israelite community suffered. And as a result, we learn that 10 people can represent a community for good and for bad. And by the way, there's another reason why those 10, that number 10, becomes indicative as to what a minion is going to be. Because in the Torah portion, this is in our Torah portion, they are referred to as an Edah, a group, an Edah. Those of you who are used to going to Camp Ramah, you know that they're all divided up into Edot and into these groupings. But they're referred to as an Edah, these 10 scouts. And elsewhere in the Bible, it says, V'nikdashti b'toch adat Yisrael. God says, I will be sanctified, Kadesh, within an Edah of Israel. And so if 10 is an Edah here, then elsewhere, prayers of sanctification, you need an Edah. You need 10. So from there, we get the idea that prayers of sanctification, you need 10. So what are prayers of sanctification? Think about the prayers that all have Kadesh, part of it. The mourner's Kaddish, all the Kaddishes. And some of the other prayers, the Baruch Hu and so on, public reading of the Torah, all of these, we need a minyan. We need 10 people. Also, in the Torah portion, we are introduced to the idea of challah. And so we have a chalot. Some of us had a challah last night because it is first introduced in our Torah portion this Shabbat. And then finally, I alerted you when we did the prayer for this, we are introduced to the idea of the tzitzit. Nowhere in the Torah does it ever talk about a talit, by the way. It only talks about tzitzit. It only talks about fringes. So I want you to take a look at this. Bonnie made this for me. She made it for me many years ago. And then what she decided to do was two very interesting things. The first thing is that for every year that I'm a rabbi, she's going to put a line of embroidery here. So next week, she's going to add the new line. You know how many lines there are going to be here to represent how many years I've been a rabbi? 50. I was ordained 50 years ago. And so we're running out of room here. But,
you need to grow a little taller.
Yeah, we may have to add an extension here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when I'm 93, you know, this. But she also did something else. She said, you know what? Let's do what it says in the Torah. Because in the Torah portion it says that you should have a thread of blue, tchela. And she said, we haven't, most talitot, if you look at your talises, none of them have a blue thread. And the reason, except for Sheila. Anybody else have a blue thread on your talit? So normally we don't have a blue thread because the blue that seems to be referred to in the Torah portion seems to be referring to a specific dye blue, which the rabbis understood was a dye that was produced by a crustacean off the Mediterranean, known as a chilazon. It's a snail. And apparently you were able to produce this indigo-specific dye, but it takes a lot of snails to produce this mucus that they exude. And it takes a lot of snails to be able to produce the color that you need for the tzitzit. And in fact, the number is you need about 10,000 snails to produce a gram of dye. So as a result, only really wealthy people or royalty can afford the dye, which is where we get the name royal blue, because only royalty could afford the dye. So the rabbi said, you know, we can't expect people to have enough money to be able to even have that one thread of blue for each of these, and so you don't have to do it anymore. And so for centuries, we haven't had to have the dye, because we didn't have the chilazon to make it available, and so we didn't need to have the thread of blue. But a number of years ago, through a number of opportunities that scientists and rabbis had to be able to reproduce this specific dye in another way, there are those that say, well, we can do it now, and so we can now have the dye in order to be able to do it right, or at least the way it's been done. A lot of people don't accept that, even in the Orthodox community, so they continue not to have the thread of blue. But you will see that at least the thread of blue that Bonnie put on this is going to help us to understand a little bit about what the purpose of this is. So you'll remember from when we read this in English, and then, by the way, it's the only paragraph, I don't know if you've ever realized this, in the contemporary service, it's the only reading in English that we do the entire service. Our entire service is in Hebrew, but that one paragraph, which is why it interests me when people leave and they say it's a Reform service. It's all English. But when we do it in English, we say, "Uschartem ekol mitzvot Adonai v'yasitem otam, v'lo taturu acharei levachem v'acharei nechem." The very first line talking about these scouts was the word latur et haaretz. And then it goes on to say, and we shouldn't be like scouts in our own religion. We shouldn't be like another translation of the word tayar is tourist. We shouldn't be a tourist in our own religion. And as a result, we have to do three things when we see these. We have to uschartem, we have to remember et kol mitzvot Adonai, all of the mitzvot, v'yasitem otam, and then we have to do them. So we have to remember them, and then we have to embrace them, and then we have to do them. So the question is, how is this all done? Well, the rabbis, when 2,000 years ago, they had to come up with what these fringes had to be. The first thing that they realized is it only has to go on a four-cornered garment. Anything that doesn't have four corners, you don't have to put it on. So the question is, how about this? So this is a shawl, but it's got four corners, and people wear it. So here's the answer as to whether you have to put tzitzit. Did I say that the word talit just means cloak? Tzitzit are what's important. The word talit is not in the Torah. But how about this? So where do you turn to figure out whether something like this needs to have the fringes? And the answer is a book like this. So this is the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law. But this is a really special version of it. It's the Code of Jewish Law, but it is including embellishments by a rabbi who took all of the more recent commentaries and included them so that the laws are elucidated even more. So here's the addition that deals with what I just asked. So the question is, and we don't talk about whether women are exempt wearing it or not, but the question is, does a shawl require tzitzit? The commandment requiring that tzitzit be affixed to a four-cornered garment is stated in the Bible as follows, and then I mentioned it to you that they have to be on the corners of the garment. A shawl worn around the neck is therefore not required to have tzitzit, although it has four corners, since one does not enwrap himself in it completely. So you have to be able to actually wrap yourself, which is why when we say the blessing, we say lehit atef bat tzitzit, that we wrap ourselves in the tzitzit. Scott, you have to be able to enwrap yourself in them completely, both in the front and the back. And because it is normally a shawl worn while folded, in which state it is not of a required size to warrant tzitzit. The other question that we have is, are women exempt from having to wear tzitzit? So this is what this is an Orthodox tract, right? Inasmuch as the mitzvah tzitzit applies only by day, women are exempt from the precept of tzitzit, since it is an affirmative precept limited to a fixed time. So the Talmud says, mitzvata says shazman grama. Anything that you are required to do at a specific time, women are exempt. Why? Because they have to raise the kids. They got to go shopping. They got things that they have to do around the house. And so you can't suddenly have them rush off to shul to be in a minyan to say prayers. So they're exempt from anything that requires you to do something at a specific time. A general rule is that you don't have to do things in a fixed time for women. While a woman may voluntarily assume such obligations, in this case, it is held to be improper for a woman to observe the precept of tzitzit and wear a talit because of the appearance of overweening pride. Now, what's interesting is that we know that in Sifrei, which is a commentary, an ancient commentary to the Bible, it says women may wear tzitzit. They may wear a talit. So that's why I don't see anybody with it. Do you feel overweening pride? Because,
No.
Okay, especially because you're the only one here with a blue, but you don't feel proud of that, right? So, so now the question is, so why even wear fringes? Why does God say you must put fringes on the corners of the garment? So Rabbi Jacob Milgram did some research on this in order to figure out, are Jews the only ones who wear embellishments like this? And the answer is, in ancient Mesopotamia, the countries that surrounded the Israelite people, apparently you wore fringes on your garment. You wore tassels on your garment. Because it was an indication of how important you were. The more important you were, the more elaborate your macrame, the knots that were part of your fringe. And God says to the people of Israel, you are all important. Everybody gets to wear it. I think in God's mind, women too. Except for those with overweening pride. We'll leave them out. So, what is also interesting is that the other people, the Mesopotamians, who used to have these fringes, these macrames, because they were important and wealthy, they took the opportunity to use them as a way to sign on clay tablets. So if you had a clay tablet and you wanted to add your signature, you just took your macrame tassel and you just embedded it in the clay for a second. So what do we do when we have a clay tablet that we're signing off on, a contract that which we sign off? We put it in the Torah and we kiss it. Our tzitzi. So how does the fringes work? So I think a lot of you know this, but I'm glad that this is in blue because you'll have an opportunity to see it. Because this is part of the wonderful creativity of the rabbis of 2,000 years ago who were faced with the challenge of, you got these laws in the Torah, we got to make them practical so people can observe them. So we can't just say you got to wear fringes on your garment. You got to have specific ideas to what this knots and coils and macrame has to be. So this is what they came up with. So they said you have 8 strings, 2 strings that are doubled over, so you end up with 8 strands. And then the rabbi said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to have 5 knots, 3, 4, 5. And in between each knot, we're going to have coils. We're going to have 7 coils here, 8 coils here, 11 coils here, and 13 coils here. What does that represent? Because I had to figure out some way that you do this so that people, when you look at them, you're going to remember to keep the mitzvot. What can you do so that when you see it, it reminds you to keep the mitzvot? Well, you have all this representing mitzvot and representing God. So 7 and 8 adds up to 15, equivalent to the 2 Hebrew letters Yud and Hey. If you add up the numerical equivalent, Aleph is 1, Bet is 2, Yud is 10, Hey is 5. You add Yud and Hey together, you have 15. So 7 and 8 is Yud Hey. This is 11. What 2 Hebrew letters add up to 11? Vav Hey. 6 and 5. Yud Hey, Vav Hey, God's name. And then the last one, 13. If you add them up together, the Hebrew word echad, that adds up to 13. God is 1. So you've got the idea that this represents God is 1. And then if you look at the Hebrew equivalent, so now you take the 5 knots and the 8 strands, add those together. 8 and 5 is 13. Then you take the numerical equivalent of the Hebrew word tzitzit, tzadi yud tav, and it adds up to 600. 600, the Hebrew word for fringe, plus the 8 and the 5, adds up to 613, the number of mitzvot in the Torah. So that's the way in which when we look upon this, we remember to keep the mitzvot. So now the question is, but must we? But must we on all of must we always wear garments that have 4 corners so we put the tzitzit on so we remember all of this? And the answer is, it's possible to avoid, as much as this commandment is important, and there are some rabbis that said this is the most important commandment in the entire Torah, because when you look at them, you remember all the commandments. Kol mitzvot Adonai. And yet, it's possible to completely avoid having to wear any fringes at all by not having a 4-quarter garment. Maimonides ruled, even though one is not obligated to acquire a four-cornered robe and wrap himself in it in order to fulfill the command of tzitzit, it is not fitting for a pious individual to exempt himself from the command. It is important and praiseworthy, but not categorical. It is conditional. If you have a four-cornered garment, then you have to have the fringes put on. So you don't have to wear tzitzit. And a lot of people don't. And there are those people who wear them and they tuck them in so they can't see them all day anyway. But you know, the reason for that is because you can get shot as a Jew if people knew you were Jewish. A long time ago, even before guns, you could be shot as a Jew because you didn't want to be so identifiable. If you had a mezuzah, you didn't want to have it where everybody on the street could see it and blow your house up. So you moved it in to the inside part of the doorpost. This is the life of the Jew over the last 2,000 years and more. That we needed to protect ourselves, and the rabbi said, you don't have to be so overtly Jewish. So if you're afraid that people are going to see you in the street with this hanging out your pants, then if it's going to cause harm, tuck it in. As long as you saw it when you put it on in the morning, then you know you're wearing it. But the problem is you also forget that you're wearing it, and then you end up not remembering the mitzvot. So there are a lot of people who look at the tzitzit, even if they do, and they can't go through the whole mathematical calculation of it. That's 8 and 5 and 13, and then, oh yeah, it represents 613. Nobody does that. Very few Jews wear this, where you can see it. And the question then is, then what is going to remind them of the mitzvot? So this is where we need to realize that there are lots of other ways that Jews can remember the mitzvot. For example, we remember the mitzvot, whether or not we wear a talit or not, whenever we walk in a house that has a mezuzah, reminds us of the mitzvot. Whenever we keep kosher, every time that we eat and we're careful about what we're eating, and maybe begin and end with a prayer, we remember that we're Jewish. And that must remind us that we have to remember the mitzvot. Every Shabbat is a reminder of the mitzvot. When you see another Jew, it reminds you you're part of a community for whom the mitzvot are important. The bottom line is this. We learn about ways in which we can remember that we're Jewish. But then we always have to move it to the next level. And the next level is, once we remember that we're Jewish, what does that require of us? And the answer is to make everything that we do Kodesh. To have Kodesh moments where we say to ourselves, this is my opportunity as a Jew to bring Kedusha, to bring holiness, specialness into my life and into the life of the world by doing the right thing. Good luck on our journey, finding reminders as to how and what we should become. We're going to now turn to the Mishaberach for those who are not well, and I'll ask you to mention people's names. Mishaberach Habuteinu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Yomotenu Sarah Clara Chavaleya, Hu Yavarach Rabbeinu Cholim. May he who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal these who are sick. So if you have any names of people who are not well, please raise your hand and I'll call on you.
Bruce Cabana, Mike Roach, Carolyn Birch, Bob Nelson, Beverly Bishop.
Thank you.
Sheila, Phyllis, Beth Brown, Eileen Wasserman, Christine, and Rachel.
Molly Sharp, Marty Sharp, Brian Mary Epstein, Murray and Sandy Hyman, and Joe Harris.
Thank you. Yeah.
Donald, Judy, and Reba.
Thank you.
Yeah, Phyllis, Sheila, Jerry Gord, Schuster's, and Lou Silverman.
Thank you. Great.
Phil and Matthew Cooperman, Diane Engels, Diane Mountainer, Jeanette Saga, Suzanne Matthew.
Thank you.
Sheila, Lou, Jay, and Michelle.
Thank you.
Nadak Stella, Pearl Bhakti, Huda, Jane Anderson, Nancy Larkin, Fran Winters, Barbara Gare, Bob Merman-Krantz, Bonnie Ritter, Robert Linda Sharp, Lynette Goodfriend, Jordy Epstein, Linda Warman, Miley Hersher, Corinne Geller, Rebecca Farber, Fiona Gribben, and Sharon Miller.
Thank you. The names.
Phyllis, Schroeder, and Jerry.
Online, names, please. Raise your hand and I'll call in you, Janet.
Richard, Grant
Grant
Hackman,
Hackman,
Barbara,
Ross Salzman, Emily Haas, Sophia Hirschbaum, Melinda
Lane
Lane
Miller.
Miller.
Thank you.
Anybody else that we neglected? HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishlach lehem b'mheira refuat hanefesh v'refuat haguf toshach l'Yisrael v'nomar amen. May the All-Merciful restore these people to full health and to full vigor, along with all others who are stricken with illness, and let us say amen. We're going to say a blessing for for America first, and then the state of Israel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, may God bless the United States of America and protect us. Before we have our prayer for Israel, I want to share this from Stan about what's going on in Israel. Israel next month is going to launch a tender to establish the country's first supercomputer to ensure the country remains a global leader in artificial intelligence. The chief executive of the state-backed Israel Innovation Authority said on Wednesday that while artificial intelligence has been a friend of Israel's tech sector, it could turn into a foe without action, given AI is a fast evolving technology. He noted that the government is budgeting $250 million on a national AI program comprised of government, industry, and academia. Tech accounts for 20% of Israel's economic output, and the country is widely regarded as one of the largest tech centers in the world. So we're going to say a blessing for Israel, and of course our prayer always is for the restoration of hostages to be returned and peace reign in the Middle East. Kathy is going to honor her mother and all of us with what's become a very special rendition of the prayer that we say for Israel, the Avinu Shabbat Shamayim. And so Kathy, I'm going to ask you to please come up, and I will accompany her. The words that she is going to be singing is a little bit more than the words that we usually sing. It is, O Heavenly One, Protector and Redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. So I'll ask you to please rise. Kathy, please share in prayer. We'll have the Hagba and Galila please come forward for the returning of the Torah to the Ark.
Thank you.
V'zot HaTorah asher Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael pi Adonai Yisrael We remain standing for Musa, page 21 at the bottom. Yitgadal v'yitkada Shemei Rabba Yamadi Rachirute v'mechmachurute v'chaye chonid yomecho v'chaye necho beit Yisrael b'gala b'gala u'bizman karim v'yimeru amen Yehesh me'rabam Torah Le'olam le'omaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar Tumah min haseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shebei dekudesha v'yilah min kol berchata v'shirata Tush b'chata On page 22, we take 3 small steps back and then 3 steps forward. Put our heels together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzhak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Gadol HaGibor HaNorah El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'konei HaKol V'zocher HaTe'avot U'meli Yoel Lifnei Shemo B'Yahava Melech Oser V'Shir Baruch atah Adonai Magei Avraham Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechaye Metim Atah Rav Hoshia Mechakel Chayim V'Chesed Mechaye Metim V'Rachamim Rabim Solech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim U'Matir Asurim U'Mekayem Emunato Yishenei Afar Mimamocha V'Gevurot Umido melach, melech memidu mechaye, umasmiach yeshua, v'ne'emanata l'chayot metim. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hametim, na'arishcha v'na'kedishcha, Gesosiach sharfei kodesh, amakadishim shimcha b'kodesh, kakatuv hayad nevi'acha, v'kara zel v'yamar, kadosh kadosh Adonai Tzivaot, melech haaretz Tzivaoto. Kevodo malei malei olam, misharta v'shovalim sholem zelazeh. Aye mikom kevodo, aye mikom kevodo. Limatam baruch yomeru, baruch kevod Adonai mikomo, mikomo yifen, yifen berachamim. V'yacholam hamyachadim shemo, erev b'boker v'chol yom tamid, pamayim mi'ava shema omrim, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Oh Eloheinu, Avinu, Malkeinu, oh Avinu, Malkeinu, Mashiach, Ve'hu Yashmi'enu Berachama, Sheni V'yeinu Kochai, Ve'hu Yashmi'enu Berachama, Sheni V'yeinu Kochai. Li'ol lachem Elohim, Ati Adonai Elohim. Great question. Hakatuv Lemor. Adonai Olam Elohayich Tzion, V'dor v'dor Hallelujah. V'dor v'dor Nagid Lechol Netzach Netzachim Kedushavcha Nakdish, V'shivchacha Eloheinu Mipino Liyamush Leilam Va'ed, K'Melech Gadol V'Kadosh HaTabaruch HaTadonai Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Did I forget a line there?
Well,
Did it come out funny?
I think we were all supposed to sing it.
Yeah,
You were supposed to sing it.
We'll have to check the replay.
I was thinking about something.
Okay. Some of you want to, can you rewind and tell us did we mess up there? No, I'm kidding. Well, we'll figure this out
Well,
tonight.
we did it, but it was a little schwach.
We may have to do it again because it's the overweening pride thing again. We do things right and we got to be proud of it.
That's right.
Let's join together on the bottom of page 23. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, mekadeshei sheli Shabbat. Kulam nispehu bidangu v'tuvecha Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, oneg Shabbat. Ratzita bo v'kidashta Shabbat, chemdat yamim oto karata, zecher l'maseh v'reishi. And now, before we conduct concluding prayers, our President Jordan Pascal will share some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And with overweening pride, I share these announcements. And pride goeth before a fall of paper. Our board meeting will be held on Wednesday, July 3rd at 7:30 p.m. at Helga's. You can attend via Zoom or in person, but if you are attending in person, please notify Helga so that no pistachios will die in vain. Our next Shabbat service will be on Friday, September 6th at 6:30 p.m. at the Glass Sturman for the barbecue and barchu, assuming the board does its work. So that means you have You can be tan, rested, and ready, but check your mailboxes constantly for membership renewal and for the High Holy Day services, which is 3 months away. Yeah, so only 3 months away. It's only, oh my God, it's, yeah, okay. Also, just to add what was said about Albert Einstein, while Albert Einstein signed the letter and wrote it, it was Leo Szilard, who was a Hungarian Jewish physicist who was part of the Chicago group working on the first atomic pile, that persuaded Einstein to write that letter to Roosevelt, because Einstein was, after all, Einstein. And then after, when they were deciding whether or not to use the atomic bomb on Japan, Leo Szilard led the group trying to convince Secretary of State not to drop the bomb on the theory that Russia was so devastated from the war, it would never try to build an atomic bomb unless they knew it could be done. And that once we used the bomb, they knew it could be done. So it's not the Jews. They first said, develop the atomic bomb, but said, don't use it.
Since we're celebrating birthdays, people here, we have a special birthday cake out there. And it's a Yom Haleach Sameach birthday cake, and you'll enjoy.
It's for everybody.
It's for everybody. It's for everybody to celebrate.
Special birthday, like we're all in special class.
Thank you. Good, good. So whoever sponsored the cake, thank you for doing that. And Helga gets to eat her name, so let's reserve that for her. So let's join together on page 24. Ein Keloheinu. Ein Keloheinu. Ein Be seated, however, if you are in mourning or observing yard sites, and the yard sites will be through the month of July, please remain standing.
as we observe these yard sites. Chana Rachel Ronald Krupp, Charlie Laver, Myrna Gold, Theodore Sturman, Morris Haddam, Giora Rubin, Jess Schneer, Rabbi Max Vorspan, Ruth Breyer, Elias Kutan, Erica Licht, Henrietta Chaim, Albert S. Heiser, Herman Solomon Isikowitz, Mark David Shackman, Fran Kabalnik, Rosalind Scharf, Celia Schweitzer, Ida Margolis, Rose Udelson, Estelle Riak, Joey Siegel, Mark Wizana, Sally Cohen, Faye Kutcher, Leon Sturman, Sam Wizana, Sam Fryman, Ivan Delman, George Unkelis, George Magit, Gladys Miles, Cecile Silverman, Moreno Turk Perez, Joan Collins Glassford, Alicia Gottesman, Elliot Jacob Sturman, Tilly Kramer, Donald Herbert, Nathan Stoll, and Hortense Schiff. Are there names that we neglected, Barbara? Thank you. Other names that we neglected?
Hanan Joe.
Thank you. Any other name that we neglected?
One more,
Thank you. Other names? The Mourner's Kaddish is on page 25. Yitkara v'yitkara shemei v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich machutei v'chayei chol u'yomei chol u'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael v'agala v'zman kari v'yimiru amen Yehei shmei Rabam Barach le'olam Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yipar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh Yitadar v'yitalem v'yitalom shemei d'kusha b'rifu La'elam min kol berchata kshirata tusbechata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yalma v'imiru Yehei shulama rabba min shemayim v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imiru amen Oseh shalom nimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imiru amen. Please be seated. Lots going to be happening between now and our next service, including the Olympics. And so as much as we're going to have overweening pride for American accomplishments, let's also keep track of what Israel is doing in the Olympics, because they always do something that makes us feel a special sense of pride as well. Let's join together in our concluding hymn, Adon Olam, page 26. Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terefo, Yitzir Yirah, Enasah, V'chesaro, Azai Melech Shemoni, V'yamtelei, Shabbat shalom.
Yashikor Rabbi.
Thank you. Have a wonderful summer.
You same.
We'll see
And
you
I, and
July
we'll,
20.
yeah. Sam, good to see you as always.
Have a happy
Take care, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat. Bye bye.